and our live here. Hi, everyone. Well, I feel something of always a little bit stressed. I'm glad I didn't talk about the test last night. Okay, I had my time to look at the test and see and review it this morning. And let's have a look at some slides here. Let's put them up here. I think they're there. You can see it by now. Let me put if any comments on the chat as well if you want to comment. But if you're watching this later, I'm sure many of you are tired after the test. Then, look at what I'm going to say, because I'm going to talk about 3 questions really, but 2 in particular that I think should be annulled. All right, but the test itself wasn't really different from last year. 5 texts, same amount of questions, of course, in a different format. But let's have a look. So I put something funny, okay, I suppose a summary. Now, did you see that willy-nilly last question? Wow, it's sacanagem, willy-nilly. When I saw that, I asked my wife, whose English is even better than mine, what does she think? Of course, she's Brazilian. Does she know what willy-nilly is? No, she couldn't. It's quite difficult. And from the context, it's quite difficult too. So let's do a summary. As the tradition of Sebraspi English exam pushed us into a lexical obstacle, okay, course where we are pulled willy-nilly without any sort of organization in a way through a gauntlet of diplomacy, stream engines, divine warriors, and spiritual armor, all while trying to remember if they meant the fanatics of, or just Europeans in general, Europe in general. So we had reference questions, inference questions, trick questions, which lull you into a false sense of security, words that were difficult, okay, that maybe you just didn't answer. And thank you for the comment. Someone this morning said they remembered me in the test. Sometimes don't answer the question if you're not sure at all. Maybe willy-nilly was the question you didn't answer, okay, especially the last one. So we had, so online now you can see all of my comments. I've gone through all of the test. I've gone through, I did it myself, and I went through ChatGPT, and then sometimes Copilot, using different ways of seeing, and of course comparing to our Clipping's own monitor bot as well. All right, so we see there, just that's the last willy-nilly one. So while we've got the comment by the bot, you've got my comment as well. So that gives you a good chance to compare, all right, because there is some divergence between what I think, okay, and what the bot thinks, okay. So that's very important for you to see. And we'll talk about the 3 main questions based on, let's say, what the answer of the Clipping monitor has found, because of course I've put all the information in my own AI, looked at all the old CESP, the of course IAGIS and Sebraspi tests, put them all together, and I've been using them and analyzing and making tests over the last, how long are we doing the intensive? 2 months. All right, so in a way, I've got a lot of information to help me understand what is Sebraspi and what they want. And if you were in that last class we had last week, in the last intensive, you would have done an exam almost similar. Of course, the texts are different, but almost similar to this exam. So your timing should have been more or less the same. So it's important, as I've always said, to feel the exam, especially in the afternoon, to know what your timing is, what the type of texts are, okay, as well as the questions. And I think we've, I'm happy that we did that, especially in the last exam. We've been trying many different other types of questions, but the main ones we've focused on in the intensive course, and when was it, last Thursday, the exam was very similar to this. So I hope those who did the test with me, or those ones who watched it after the answers and did the test as we did it under sort of exam conditions, found it really useful, okay, when it came to do this. So you find all of the my answers as well as the answers from ChatGPT's AI there. And we do diverge on some, okay? Okay, let's have a look. So go to the site where the gabarito is, where the answers are, all right? And I've put my answers in there, and you'll see the comments. And they'll take you also to the forum as well, where you'll have the complete list. Now, of course, even I found with my analysis with using AI, and then you've got clippings also analysis, which is different to mine. I've got my own personal one, that there was some divergence, and that divergence helps us to know which were the problem questions as well. Okay, with Sibraspi, which we'll talk about. So we had the 5 texts, okay? Had this Amina Mohammed tells about, of course, talking about the lack of representation of women, very text, very current text at the moment at the UN. And of course, Band-Aid, that was the main word there. Uses a metaphor to correct or things that happened before. And then, of course, AI, we had AI meets diplomacy. I think we did a text on AI meets diplomacy in the first weeks of our intensive. I made one specifically from ChatGPT and use it. I have to find that one because, of course, it's an issue we've got to see. And, of course, it might be the issue actually coming on phase 2. How are we going to write about this? AI is not being used in diplomacy to any, let's say, studied length. So that will be a problem, the type of language as well, if it comes up. But that's hopefully it thinks Sibraspi is choosing something else. Okay, I'll go through. Heiki, thank you for your comment. All right. Yeah, I will go through the answers. I've gone through the answers, but I'll go through that at the end. I'll go through these first ones. And if people have got specific answers, then I'll get my answers out, okay? And then we'll look at that. But there are some that are very important to look at first, okay? But I think that one was that modifying of the AI. Oh, okay. I do remember that one. Because it's talking about the fragmentation, Ehiki. It's not talking about AI. It's talking about that fragmentation there's another word, AI fragmentation. I haven't got it up, the question in front of me here, because we're going to go through other ones. So it's not talking the expression not about AI, but about the structure or the fragmentation of AI. That second word, okay? All right, then. So if you remind me about that, we come to the end because you've only got about 30 minutes to go through. So then we went through the Industrial Revolution, okay, and talk about steam engines. There's a clear, logical answer at the start as well. Oh, sorry, text 3, The Gods of Worry, a more literary type of text, talking about literacy as well. And then we went through, of course, no, this is about spiritual armor, talking about literacy as well. Good text, not too big as well. All right. We see, of course, the numbering is different, of course, than all of the other exams in the past, but still the same style of question, the ones we've been practicing. And we've practiced a lot. Wow. Exams every week under pressure. You've been very good. Okay, so this is the questions we're going to look at, okay? 125, I think it should be annulled, okay? It always is difficult when it comes to grammar because it's never as clear as we think. We think grammar structure, that is it. It's concrete. It's not in this case, all right? Now, I went through this. It took a long time this morning looking at this. And a full explanation of, is remain relegated passive voice? Well, remain could be seen as a stative verb, so and relegated a past participle. Okay, so it could we put the verb to be in front of here, to be or are or is relegated. It could be seen as a passive, but other people would say no, it's not. And as we're looking at the meaning and the grammar, the semantics and the structure, and what does lexical aspect mean in this question, okay, it gets quite confusing. They probably shouldn't have put what is lexical aspect. I think it's in this question, okay, because also that can cause a doubt. Now, a full description of what can be seen as correct and what can be seen as wrong is in the site. Okay, I've done it. So if you want to argue for and against, the answers are there. All right, and that's the frustrating thing. Is there one answer? I don't like to say there is, but I would suggest it would be annulled. And I've done it using, of course, all I've studied. There's a clear explanation why for Sabraspi it should be annulled. Okay, I think with the language which will explain it. Right, so everything is there online because we won't have time to go through it all. It is a complicated aspect. Grammarians fight about what they think is right and what they think is wrong. And of course, to write this type of questions, you need a professor of linguistics at the highest level, really, to catch you with these. This is very advanced. We tend not to do a lot of grammar, okay, because you can look at most of these questions semantically, all right, but using a more, let's say, meta language is not helpful. Some people say you couldn't look at these questions and understand it without the meta language or without understanding grammar, which should be the purpose of this question. But still, there's confusion. Okay? So there's one that would be annulled. The next one, 136. Submit a recurso in case willy-nilly someone's getting annulled. I'm just using willy-nilly for this. Okay, so the reference they, what does it mean? It could mean yes, it could be no as well. Okay, it could mean generally, or could be talking more specifically. So again, a full explanation of what they is referring to could be seen as correct or not, are there for you to use and you to understand, to justify maybe what your answer is. But again, I would suggest it would be annulled. Okay, again, it's very complicated to say what is exactly the right one. And as we know, I do these exams, you're always picking at every single word, what could be possible correct, what could be possibly be wrong, always question, which is the greatest thing, but take you up to a very high level of understanding. And it's a challenge for people like me, all right, as teaching, doing so many of these tests all of the time. And this one, 138, does require a bit of thought. Now, the examiner might say, yeah, no, it's clear what it is, what they're referring to, okay? But it's not, okay? And when I compared all of the different possibilities, it's better to be annulled, all right? Now, to reference question, it should be quite clear. Of course, at a higher level, which is Sabraspi is doing, they make it a bit more difficult, but I think they made this too difficult, all right? So you can argue for one way or the other. But please go into the site, see my full explanation there, all right? I've done it all in, I think I've done it in Portuguese as well. Stuck it through translation so you can see it. Since some of it is in English, but I've tried to put all the answers in Portuguese because you need that in order to put your recursos now. It's a time for recursos, all right? use this opportunity. Don't waste your time, especially when we move on to the second phase. You're going to use hit courses a lot to question everything the examiner says. It's your right to do this. Sebastian want you to do it, so please use the hit courses, all right? Right then, the last one was, last question was 137. I'll just put this quickly, cover this one. In the gabarito of clipping, which we're going to use for you to be able to gauge or find out what your score is, so you can decide whether to go on to the second phase before. This one was wrong. It was marked wrong, but it should be correct. Right, should be correct. So when you go through the gabarito, be careful. 147 on the clipping depois da prova, sorry, side here. All right, because this one I think is wrong. I've told them hopefully they'll correct it by the time, but just make sure you do that. Okay, so the test was as we expected, which is in a way good for us as teachers who are looking at this exam all of the time. Was it good for you? No, because it's difficult. Yeah, of course, it's stupidly difficult. I hate this. It makes me crazy as well. All right. Okay, so you have to be very careful. Sometimes unnecessarily difficult. It's not testing your level of English. It's testing, well, I don't know what it's testing. It's, well, you've got to have a very high level of English. You know, I have doubts as well. That's why I think 2 questions should be annulled. Okay, good. So what have we got? 2 questions we think is annulled. The rest are very straightforward. Okay, all of the answers, I can go through them all and explain them all, but we won't have time, all right, because I've done it fully there. So what you're going to do, get your gabarit, your answers, okay, compare them to the answers that we put online, okay, and see where they're different. Of course, if they're different, you're going to check what the clipping have said, what I've said, which usually confirm the answer, all right? So you're 100% sure that if you're right or wrong, you know what score you're going to get. So go through that. And of course, look at whether you want to ask it to be annulled. I'm not going to say it's going to be annulled. It's up to you, because you depend on your strategy. You know, if you want the question to be maintained as correct or wrong, you don't want to ask for them to change it if you think you've got it right. All right, so go through them. But the questions were different. I thought the reading comprehension questions were quite clear. The grammar questions, based questions, were not good. They were not worded right. Words like anthropoetic, I forgot what that one was terrible. Let me find out some of my comments here. All right, so with the first text, yeah. The vocabulary and grammar was quite good. It was quite moderate. Okay, a mixture of explicit content and inference questions. The passive voice one needs annulling, but they've got these phrasing like the only reason, or in 123 makes it you want to be very clear. It's only reason. No, there are other reasons. That major reason. It's only the major reason for 123. That was one question. Let's go quickly to the others questions. And what we had in the second text, quite a complex theme, of course. Logical inference. So you should have been underlining these answers. Okay. And structure, of course, the grammar wasn't too bad in this one. There wasn't an overload of grammar as there was in the previous one. And 132, which reverses the true meaning. So that's a trap. And 134 also tricked candidates with the terminology as well. I think that was unfair. All right, but a middle to high level text to do. Just check the other one. So we've got a few minutes yet. Let's go to the next one. Text 3, which was about, of course, a much more literary one. This one was much more dense. Okay, required a sort of critical cultural reflection, which is we have in this type of exam. Inference questions as well. The reference question is the issue here in this one. All right, and yeah, I thought this was a very high register. It was with complex sentences, but all within what we expect from the exam. Let's go to the next one. Next text. Okay, this one was fine. I thought it was quite straightforward as well. Typical of text 4. Okay, about with the steam engines. Okay, and anthropometric. Oh, what terrible! You can get confused up there with that one. Stand up to scrutiny and back up with examination. I thought that was quite clear. Stand up to scrutiny and back up. Phrasal verbs, all right, which are not common, but from the context, I think it was quite clear. Were they interchangeable? I think we said they were yes. Even grammatically, yeah, we did. Let's check anything else. Last text before I check if there's any comments. Okay. Fine. And last one, yeah, the willy-nilly one. I always call it willy-nilly. All right. So the cleavage and needs and creeds. That one was difficult. Were they opposite, similar? Well, it was wrong anyway. That's the contradictions and they're two distinctive differences. Okay. So they're separate. They're not. The consequences are separate. So that's why we can't say they're the same. Woefully and transient, modified to actions. Yes, that was the one. And 146 was incorrect. 147, I think, was the issue. Okay, on the site. All right, and 148 willy-nilly was wrong. If you weren't too sure on what willy-nilly was, don't answer it. Okay, fine. Let's go back to where we were. Okay, let's go through the comment. Okay, Louis said, I remember a question where it asks if the verb is in the present continuous tense. Okay. It does, even though the main verb is ing. Yeah, it's not. It does seem like the present continuous, Louise, but it's not. It's a reduced relative clause. Okay, and yeah, there was a. It's missing verb to be. Yeah, it is. It's a reduced relative clause. If I can, let me find out what that question is. Well, I've definitely explained it, Louise, online. Elena, yes, I would have got a headache as well, Elena, your comment here for the rest of the day. Yes, you do have to have drank lots of water, I don't know, and be ready, have your Red Bull ready to keep you going. So, Louise, going back to your question, the grammatical explanation is there in the pós-prova. Okay, you'll find it there because I can't If you don't tell me the question, I can't really find it, which one it is, but it's very clear there. It's a reduced relative clause. So it's not the present. I think it was present perfect continuous, no? But that one was quite straightforward. Yeah. I read it first and I thought, oh, it could be right. And then we analyze it again, because you've got to do this. I go through it very quickly first to see what would be the main mistakes, the most difficult ones. All right. And then to see, because that probably would be the ones where you would make the main mistakes. Okay. Good. So on the, everything is explained now. I went through everything this morning, all of the explanations for each one of those questions. I thought it wasn't a bad test. All right. Well, I think they're always bad tests, really. Let's face it, they're terrible tests. You wouldn't get this strange behavior of questions in any other test. All right. It's requires a lot of skill and understanding of the test to be able to survive. All right. Because I do admire you all for doing this test. I only do the English part, but to do it all, it's a massive challenge, and you're learning loads. That's all I can say. Good. That's it for now. As I said, please go through the answers there in the side. They're all very clear. And yeah, and also you can, if you want to comment on the questions that I've put my comments on, always tag me, Ahoba Professor Sean, on the forum, and then I'll see them and then I can respond. We've got until Wednesday, so I don't think it's quinta, quarta-feira, to respond to anything. And certainly I went through it all last night after coming back from Gafieira. Spent all last night and this morning doing it. Okay, good. Wish you all the best. Now, phase 2 is coming, of course. I started posting videos as well about it on the for the second phase. Got some more classes to do over the next weeks and practice. If you need correction, of course, we're here at Clipping. I'm going to give you correction too. Right, full correction. I'm going to be giving you exactly the score what you would get as well for both the summary and the composition. But you need training. So if you feel you're within that margin, let's say, to pass, I suggest the course. All right, it's cheaper than you would get most places as well, and you have me. All right, all the best, everyone. Ciao, ciao, beijos, beijos. All the best. Bye bye.